in a way they go against what is fruitful for the dominant ideology.
Looks like we got us another hit.
I think y'all missed it last night.
I mean, look, we've discussed this a number of times. I'm on the Boccia side of this, and I agree with Bill Maher. I don't think it's this hypocrisy to go to college and also many people who are against this forgiveness went to college, but maybe they made different choices to avoid in where they're going to go and how long they were there and what they majored in to avoid accruing debt or to accrue less debt. Maybe they didn't go to the fanciest, most expensive place. Maybe they tried to finish in 3 years rather than 4 or 5. And this is, look, if you could, it's not about just wanting to hurt people who are in debt, but people agreed to take on this debt. It wasn't forced on them. It was a voluntary interaction. I would like to borrow this money from the American taxpayer, and I will pay it back under these terms. I think this system is bad. We've talked about this at length. The system should be changed. The college costs need to be made affordable to the people, at least if we're talking about public institutions. That only makes sense to me.
What should Biden do to do that?
So he was making the conservative argument there, right? So, and then she asked him, what should Biden do to deal with that? What do y'all think? Y'all there? I don't want to lose y'all on this.
I'm gonna tell you, because we know that at some point this thing became predatory. So I think that's the part that because I mean, let's just say somebody who's already in school, they're a sophomore in college, and they keep raising the prices of school before you can finish, and this and that and the other. So they've outpriced it, and you're in the middle of getting your degree, so you're still stuck in a hard place of trying to decide. Okay, I don't know if I can afford this anymore. I don't know if it's worth it because of what job am I going to get that's going to pay this off, whatever, blah blah blah. Well, I think that because our government allows that type of predatory thing to happen to the people, because they're supposed to be there to protect us, the corporations, the schools, the organizations, that they're supposed to be regulated so that they can't hurt us. So I think that if somebody has to take out a loan for school, whatever agreement they made initially is what the tuition they said, because I know when I was in school, like tuition was like $2,000-$3,000 for the school I went to. So, and of course there was some more expensive, whatever, but per semester. So if I can, I feel that I can do the 2,000. If I'm there for 4 years or 5 years, I'm gonna only pay that 2,000, 2,500, whatever that is for school. So to keep it fair, so there has to be some kind of regulations on how much they can really do. Because I mean, how much is the education really? Is there really they paying that much more in the job market for them to raise the prices?
Yeah,
for schooling?
that's definitely a valid question. What is the reason for the sharp rise in the cost of attending these schools?
Of school, yeah, because I mean, I think that it just trying to make it totally free, that's a utopia mindset. But at the same time, you're devaluing a system because it makes it where it's not really something worth really going to get when anybody can just walk up and go get it.
Well, she's gonna make her argument right here. I want you to tell me what your rebuttal
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree that this is that he can. He's sort of declared or thinks that he can. We'll find out if the court agrees that this policy can be done without Congress. I'm not confident that it can.
He's been doing it for 2 years, and Donald Trump started it.
Well, just because Donald Trump did it doesn't mean it's constitutional.
Right, but it's something that's been ongoing for 2 years. So to overturn the precedent of being able to at very least suspend these payments, which is what cancellation ultimately can be, is an indefinite suspension of these payments, then you're going to have to do a lot of retrofitting to the last 2 years of public policy where these objections have not been raised.
Yeah, I don't.
So here's the question. Fine, if you've had these other alternative ways, and I'm sure everyone's thought very hard about how to help working people, what are they?
I've said we should change the whole.
How? And show me the record of having supported all of these policies for years that would get to the root of the issue. Because I can show you, going back years and years, that I have been fighting hard, going to protests, working for campaigns, advocating across this country for exactly those kinds of policies. What I'm noticing
I've been
is that
advocating
a lot of the
abolishing the student loan program for 10 years.
I'm noticing a lot of the people who have a lot to say in this instance have done little to nothing from a policy perspective to try to promote some of the alternatives they are just now throwing out here, just in the one occasion where a couple of dollars are actually coming into the way of people who earn $125,000 a year. We live in a country where Joe Biden—
$300 billion out of our that we lent. We lent that money.
It's a tax base that is being paid into by the exact same people who are benefiting from it. I don't own a house, Robbie, but you get to take a mortgage. Well, I don't know if you own a house or whatever, but people who do own homes get to take mortgage deductions up to $750,000 a year on their homes. Do you know what the maximum deduction of your taxes is for if you have student debt?
I don't.
It's only $2,000, and that's only if you make less than $60,000 a year. If you make over $60,000 a year, it's zero. So tell me why.
Probably the taxes are unfair.
Tell me why, Robbie, we live in a country where every Democrat and Republican vows to make life better for the middle class. We have tax break after tax break for the middle class. Joe Biden declares that he's not going to raise taxes, not just on the middle class, but anybody earning under $400,000 a year, an amount that is well over what many people would consider to be just middle class. And there's none of that vitriol and backlash against any of those policies. But the second there is a distribution that is going to be made to people whose parents were literally too poor for them to pay for their education, suddenly we have to say, oh, if you're a middle class person getting aid from the government, you're suddenly a deplorable who's not supposed to be benefiting in any way. And you have people talking about folks that used to be considered the bedrock of our labor class, dismissed by Ted Cruz as though their lives don't matter, their labor doesn't matter, their work doesn't matter, like some work is better than other. I'm sorry, that is elitism. Giving people the same opportunity that Ted Cruz, who went to Harvard, has to get the education that enabled to him to have the career that he has and be the millionaire that he is today, that is not elitism. Everyone shouldn't have to go to college.
I think it's elitist to slam working people, baristas. Yeah, Ted Cruz, fine, terrible, bad. But people who don't want to forgive the debt obligations that others willingly took on, that they don't want forgiven because they paid their own way and they took out loans and they made it work, those people are frustrated, and I understand their frustration.
Well, I'm one of those people. I've paid more to student debt than probably 99% of people in this country because I had a bigger student loan burden than 99% of the people in this country. And I would never begrudge anybody else the opportunity to get out from under their debt. It has been a real mitzvah for me to be able to be in the top percent of earners and to be able to keep up with my debt burden. But unfortunately, as I've witnessed with so many of the people in my life, one misstep, one ill parent, one disability for yourself, one firing because there's a recession and the job market crashes and you are no longer able to keep up with those payments and they balloon. The people who are getting their debt canceled are people who have been paying.
It's a scam, like Mar said. Don't do it. Don't take them out. Right. Don't subscribe to it. Don't do it.
And my position
is
not
worth it.
If you don't have an alternative, if you've never talked about taxing the rich, if you've never talked about ways that you could equalize inequities that might happen on the fringes of this kind of policy by just taxing people who do have windfalls, then you are not a good faith actor. And what you're ostensibly doing, what you're literally doing, is spending all of your time and energy attacking the one policy that Joe Biden can do to actually help poor and working people at the same time that you cloak that objection in a faux elitism. And frankly, I think that's the worst kind of weaponized.
Well, I described a plan in my radar yesterday for what I would do differently. I think if the income-based repayment, I think, is a good plan, but should be done directly with some arrangement with the colleges rather than the government for that
proposing plans that are going to be backed by Congress is a bait and switch. Biden
Well,
can
Drew's
do
not
this.
gonna do it on that one.
Are Republicans going to get on board? Are all the Republicans like Ted Cruz going to vote for legislation? They're not. And I think that Democrats should propose legislation. I said this in my radar last week, that you should bring
Democrats
up all
not
the
gonna
plans
do
that
it
the
either,
left has
sweetheart.
already written that are sitting there ready to be signed and voted on to actually fix the root of the problem. But the fact that they have never paid attention to those plans is proof positive that they don't actually care about working class people.
Well, we're talking about. I'm not defending Ted Cruz.
I welcome alternatives, but people who sit around with their graduate degrees and their elite jobs, looking down their nose saying, oh, we should just have all of this sympathy for people who are toiling away and serving me my coffee. The idea that you would say something as elitist as that and pass it off as being a working class hero is one of the more craven, disgusting things that I personally have ever witnessed in the context of this conversation.
Yeah. Just woke up.
That shit got heated right there.
Somebody